This is art. 2021, pretty good year for games. A lot of really solid entries in both the indie and AAA scene. But of course you know what you've clicked into, cause Chicory, A Colorful Tale, holds the title for my game of the year. You are a dog with a paintbrush and you can spam the world with stoozies. I literally couldn't ask for anything more. Now before I get into my experience with Chicory, let me go through some honorable mentions, cause like I said, there were a lot of bangers this year. This is a list compiled by myself and the Discord community. Alright, ready up the montage music and let's take a look at some of our favorites this year. Feel free to join the server and tell us about your game of the year, or leave a comment, or like and subscribe, or patreon.com/tartan. Really, every little bit of support helps the channel out, and I really appreciate it. Oh, and before we get into it, this is your first spoiler warning. I'm not talking anything plot related right now, but I think a big part of this game is discovering stuff for yourself. So, if this image alone sold you on Chicory, stop watching this video and go pick up the game right now. And of course, I'll give y'all another warning before we get into plot spoilers when we get there. With that out of the way, let's talk about why I love this game. As I talked about in my Monster Hunter video, I really love the simple act of existing in the world. And in Chicory, it just feels so good to hang out. Lena Raine absolutely nails the music, Alexis Dean Jones and Madeleine Berger's art is unbelievably charming. Honestly, the whole team did a phenomenal job creating the immediate aesthetic appeal. And in addition to these wonderful people who made this game possible is you. You paint the world in the colors you see fit. And this is where my real love for the game starts. No matter what part of the game you're in, you are invited to play and create and express yourself. Each little region in the Land of Picnic has a unique color palette and it helps establish the atmosphere. Supper Woods is an autumnal forest, Potluck is a cozy hometown, and Desert Mountain is a serene but rugged terrain. The entire world is a coloring book to do with as you see fit. You can make it a thematically succinct world, or an absolute abomination of colors like me. It's entirely up to your volition, and real fast, just look at what some people have created. I love it. Heck, once you unlock custom colors, you could, in theory, make the entire map into a Gotham. If I had time to make this a reality, I absolutely would have, because it's been on my mind the whole time. And regardless of how you choose to approach coloring the world, it is immensely satisfying to see your final product. Anyways, if Chicory was just a glorified coloring book, I would still recommend it to everyone I know. But that's not the case, because in addition to being a very relaxing activity, coloring also completely recontextualizes the adventure. As you progress, your bond with the brush deepens, allowing you to interact with the world in different ways. And just like any good Zelda or Metroidvania, there are secrets stashed throughout each screen as a reward for being conscious about your ever-expanding moveset. And there's a good range of depth to getting these goodies. Some are just on screen, others require a little bit of creativity and world awareness, and of course there are puzzles. Loads and loads of puzzles, and I love all of them. And this game has a lot of environmental elements to work with, and the devs mix and match them throughout in incredibly satisfying ways. Plus, as a lovely cherry on top, they are introduced without sluggish tutorials. Y'all know I hate when a game babies you through and tells you exactly how to approach a situation. But in Chicory, they introduce all of these mechanics through well thought out level design and let the world really speak for itself. And the puzzles in this game are exactly how I like them. They aren't insufferably easy or unintuitively difficult. You are given all the pieces to solve it. Plus, painting goes from a calming aesthetic activity to a tool that helps you solve the puzzles. Stepping into a puzzle screen for the first time, I found a lot of them to be overwhelming. Tons of black and white with various hashing. It's not easy to comprehend how 3D space is represented in a 2D environment. So this is where painting the world becomes part of the problem-solving experience. It is a great method to help players build a relationship with the world and teach themselves how to best approach the puzzle. Oftentimes, I would approach these spaces by using the fill bucket and figuring out a route to achieve my goal. And more often than not, Because there are so many secrets in the game, doing this would reveal a hidden path that I wasn't even looking for. It's just so well implemented. It really feels like a natural extension of yourself, just like Cappy from Mario Odyssey and wall merging from Link Between Worlds. And I've only been talking about the puzzles in the overworld. All of the dungeons have their own unique mechanics as well. Wielder Temple is all about finding hidden secrets. Grub Deep had you working with paint-eating bugs to solve puzzles. And don't even get me started on the boss fights. Actually wait, before I get into talking about the boss fights, let me drop the big spoiler warning. Cause we really can't talk about anything else without talking about the plot and the themes of this game. So spoiler alert, check out the game for yourself and let me know what you think when you come back. Okay, we good? Awesome. Time to talk about bosses. Yo, the boss fights are dope. This game is secretly a bullet hell and nobody's talking about it. Lena Raine once again kills it with some banger tracks and it looks great. Inverting the color palette perfectly captures the shift in tone. Plus, the way each fight builds off the last and changes how you think about combat is so sick. They eventually added mirror fights and this just broke my brain, but it was so satisfying to overcome. The ramp up in difficulty is excellently paced because just like in the overworld, they are all elements that are conveyed through action and clearly telegraph what you need to do. It is so consistently well done that by the end of the game, the final boss is throwing everything at you from past fights, plus your own custom Stussy stamps. I lost my goddamn mind when Stussy started swarming towards me. Oh, and this is probably a good time to back up and talk about the plot. Stussy Monster Final Boss really doesn't make a lot of sense out of context, but I promise the way the narrative builds up to this final boss makes perfect sense. So the game starts you out with the lore. A magical paintbrush has been passed down through a long line of wielders who are responsible for bringing color to the world. And the most recent wielder is Chicory. She is so cool and talented, and just look at these colors. The legacy of the paintbrush is renowned and each wielder is a legend and you are just the janitor. You clean and fantasize about becoming the next wielder and then bzzort, the color gets zucked from the world. Anyways, you take a rather uneventful walk through a hallway and then bam, you find the brush abandoned and you take it upon yourself to help Chicory get to the bottom of the vanishing colors. It's been your dream to become a wielder and now you have a chance to be the best. But as you progress, you quickly learn about the burden of the brush. There's a lot of responsibility because you are the only person who can bring color to the world. Yeah, okay Pumpernickel, I get it, I'm not your favorite, Blackberry did it better. Actually, you know what? No colors for you. Macaron is my new best friend. On top of some real judgy beans and folk who do not recognize the boundaries of self-employed workers, there are the pressures that come with this massive legacy. You learn about how wielders lost their passion and put too high a standards on their successor and themselves, and Chicory has been hit the hardest. All of her self-doubt and pressures from her predecessor Blackberry manifest in these color-stealing corruptions. Chicory drove herself to burnout because she strives so hard to be perfect, and you, on the other hand, came upon the brush because you just so happened to be in the right place at the right time. You didn't train at art school for years for the title. Radish makes sure that you know that. You want to be a great wielder, but this game isn't about being the best wielder or even the best artist. This game is about being the best you. I resonated so strongly with this message, and I'll talk about my whole bag of beans in a bit, but first let's talk about how these themes of being your best self are reflected in everyone in the story. Imposter syndrome runs rampant through all of these characters. Radish makes some kick-ass art, but she struggles to see that for a while because she isn't the wielder. Blackberry fought to be the best wielder, and in doing so, hardened her heart to others. Chicory received the full brunt of Blackberry's isolated demeanor, and that pushed her to hold her own art and the brush in contempt. All of them became hyper-focused on their relationship with the brush, and forgot about the creativity and the expression that lies at the heart of it all. Everyone has a creative side to them. Self-expression is not a skill reserved to those who have a career in art. You shouldn't need a magical brush or a million Twitter followers to validate that you want to make things. People are gonna love and hate your art no matter what you do, and you can't get hung up on that. The themes in this game really struck a chord with me, and they reach a climax in the boss fights I mentioned earlier. The pressure from dealing with the judgment of others like Pumpernickel, Blackberry's rigid rule, Chicory's inclination to lash out, it's all represented in the boss fights. And your fights with yourself are incredibly clear. You're just a janitor. You haven't had any professional training. What right do you have to be a part of this long legacy of professional drawers? Yo, imposter syndrome sucks. Just to make sure we're on the same page about what imposter syndrome is, it's the inability to recognize one's own skills and successes. It's that impulse to reject a compliment because there's no way someone thinks I'm good at this. And I love the way this game addresses those feelings that so many of us experience. If Chicory's message was just, screw imposter syndrome, just believe in yourself, this would be a bad game. That is basically like telling a person with depression to just stop being sad. Imposter syndrome is a complex feeling that has a lot to sort out, and this game really takes its time to properly acknowledge the various aspects of these emotions. Obviously, support is important. Having someone in your corner could be the push that you need, but they can't be an end-all be-all. In addition to showcasing the strength of a healthy support system, the game does a really good job of letting these characters speak their feelings. We get to see these incredibly honest conversations sharing their joys, dreams, fear, regret, and the small steps they take towards healing. The journey in this game is incredibly intimate. Every moment of character exploration is tenderly written, and the finale wraps these themes up perfectly. The corruption manifests itself as you and steals your brush like the sus imposter syndrome metaphor that it is. But after hearing the support of those around you recognizing you as a human being or a dog, recognizing you as not just the wielder, you find it in yourself to summon a brush of your own, because again, you being an artist has nothing to do with the legacy of those who came before you. You are an artist in your own right, and fighting your imposter syndrome manifestation alongside your friend and mentor, it feels so right. It's the perfect epic ending to the game. But honestly, outside of these few big moments, it's a pretty quiet story. Like, if we had to compare it to, say, the heroics of The Legend of Zelda, the adventure in Chicory isn't very grandiose, but this game is better for it. So how do they take this really heavy story and make it work as a slow burn? Well, in the simplest of terms, they let you take your time on your journey and fill that space with lots of other good little bits. Imposter syndrome and the depression and anxiety that surround it are pretty intense topics, but Chicory does a lot to let you properly explore those emotions at your own comfort. Not only do the characters regularly remind you to take care of things when you're ready, but after every chapter, they offer you the option to save and quit. I wish more games did this. It doesn't ruin my immersion if I'm explicitly offered time to take away from the game. On the other hand, while I absolutely loved playing The World Ends With You this year, I did recognize that the writing style was intentionally very tense and didn't want to give the players a chance to relax, leaving the story on cliffhangers and beginning with new twists each day. The lack of a manual save option also added to this pressure, but maybe that's just emboldened by my need to save multiple times. I don't know. And again, the writing and characters in TWEWY are good, so you want to keep going on the game's merit alone, but also I want to go eat dinner. Mom just heated up the Hot Pockets. Regardless, even if you take all the sweet time in the world and you end up forgetting where you were in the main story, the game has tons of phone booths scattered across Picnic to help keep you on track. You call up your mom and she points you in the right direction. And your dad is also there to help you on a very granular level too if you need explicit directions. I never used it, but it's a really nice option to have. However, the best part about this guidance system is in its presentation. It is perfectly succinct with the rest of the game's themes. It's not a rigid objective on a list, it's conversational. You have someone in your corner backing you up, listening to your problems, and giving you advice to the best of her abilities. The language chosen reinforces the steps explored in the main plot about approaching imposter syndrome. It's such a fitting way to help players find the balance between the critical path and the side adventures. And that's super important to me because I adore every single one of the side stories in this game. The creative community is incredibly diverse, and outside of the main plot, Chicory really takes its time exploring as many of those creative perspectives and histories as they can. Let me just lightning round some of them that were the most impactful to me. Otherwise, this is going to be just me raving for like 10 minutes about each one and we'll be here all day. Please, just go play the game for yourself. Okay, lightning round. The Art Academy was an absolute delight. I love that you could take a break from the main story to just breathe and focus on a single piece. And I absolutely love how they wrote Radish. And it was really inspiring to see her acknowledge the roadblocks and start on a new path. It's really easy to put the blinders on and see success as a singular path. And just because you aren't the wielder influencer with 5 kajillion followers doesn't mean you can't find success, much less happiness, in your creative pursuits. One side story that I wasn't expecting was the brief quest with Hummus and their late friend Parsley. Hummus asks you to help decorate the screen with plants in memory of Parsley, the plant lover. The other decorating quests are kinda superficial and the activity never grabbed me super hard. I also really enjoyed admiring the world for what it was, so I liked leaving the world in its natural state. Sans a couple of Stussy here and there, of course. But I lost a close friend recently, and doing this act of kindness to help someone else through their grief was something I didn't know would be part of my own grieving process. Taking the time to carefully decorate a space with a specific person in mind was an incredibly emotional experience. I think it's really easy to only think about 2D illustrations when talking about art. Maybe that's my narrowed perspective because it's the most prolific on Twitter, but I think this moment was a great example to show how art comes in all different forms and how they're all important to the act of creative expression. There were a couple of other moments that explore creativity through other means like music, fashion, and streaming, but this one was the most impactful. So before we go, I just wanted to say thanks to Greg Lebanov and the rest of the team for giving us this experience. Okay, back to gushing about the game. Jarring tonal shift transition. On top of the emotionally impactful moments, there were a lot of moments of hilarity as well. The investigation at Simmer Springs was a hysterical high point for me personally, but honestly, the writing is just top-notch funny all around. The team managed to write characters that blend the world-building flavor text with the themes of the game and the humor all at once. This is some of the most fun I've had talking to everyone in a game. At the pizza shop, we get to see art as a service and the burnout that this sort of lifestyle can lead to. Your sister Clementine checks in with you, and after you tell her you feel overwhelmed by so many tasks, she tells you that it's okay to say no and take time to take care of yourself. Again, it's just reinforcing healthy habits, and I love that the game doesn't pressure you. After that conversation, I wasn't planning on 100% of the game, but I was having so much fun in the world, I ended up doing everything anyway. And honestly, I thought it was incredibly worth it. I've already talked about it, but solving all the puzzles and uncovering every nook and cranny just to find a hat or pick up a piece of trash, it was incredibly fun. And as a treat for completing the game 100%, you get to meet the devs. They talk about their experiences making the game and being creative in general. And it just made me really happy to hear their perspective about pouring their heart into this game. That was evident from playing the game, but getting to actually hear them was super moving. I wish I could have talked to them more. If a dev finds their way to this video, I just want to say thank you. I had such a lovely time playing this game. I'm not the completionist, so I don't have the authority to say complete it, but if I could, best believe I would say complete it! Anyways, I think that'll do it for this video. I could go on about all the other little bits that I loved, like reuniting a bunch of old friends through letter delivery, or drawing Jin from BTS in order to express love and then being able to say Jin from BTS enough times in my video that I can put Jin and BTS in my tags, and then maybe more people will get to see this video. Jin from BTS. If you've made it this far, thanks for taking the time to listen to me rave about Chicory. Again, feel free to join the Discord or drop a comment and tell me about your game of the year. There's a lot out there and I'm sure I've missed many. And before I go, in the spirit of the holidays, please check out some of the creators I've got on screen right now. They all make good stuff. Links to that stuff is also in my bio. Thanks again for watching, and if you haven't yet, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment, and subscribing if you haven't already. And of course, as always, patreon.com/StarTown if you want to support me there. Be well, and I hope you have a happy holiday season. Yo, happy Christmas and happy birthday to me. I think this is coming out of my birthday, maybe, I don't know. As always, thanks to the patrons for supporting my work. And yeah, if you want to join in, see some digital art that I need to finish for the month, get your name in the credits, that'd be cool. You can head on over to patreon.com/StarTown. I've already done my shilling for the YouTube and all the other stuff, and I told you to go follow some other people. So I don't know. No video essay next month. I'm gonna be making a game. Well, that's pretty cool, ain't it? Have a good. Bye-bye.